A biker mocked and kicked a blind black woman's guide dog, not knowing it was a retired canine German Shepherd. What happened next will shock you. A blind woman, alone in the city, trusting only her loyal guide dog to navigate a world she cannot see. But then, a reckless biker appears, laughing, taunting. And then, the unthinkable happens. He kicks her dog, believing what he doesn't know. Rex, a retired canine German Shepherd, worst mistake of his life. This story will leave you speechless. But before we begin, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications so you... Now, let's dive into an unforgettable tale of loyalty, justice, and redemption. The city streets were alive with the usual noise, honking cars, distant sirens, the chatter of people rushing to their destinations. But for Maya Carter, the world was made up of sounds, scents, and the gentle but firm guidance of her loyal companion, Rex. Maya had lost her sight in a tragic accident 6 years ago. At first, the darkness had swallowed her in fear, but then came Rex, a retired canine German Shepherd who had served in law enforcement for years. No longer fit for high-intensity missions, he was trained as a guide dog, a second chance at life, just like Maya needed. With Rex by her side, Maya didn't just survive, she lived. She walked the city streets independently, went grocery shopping, and even enjoyed the simple pleasure of sitting at a cafe, knowing she was safe. People admired her confidence, though few knew the battles she had fought. On this particular day, Maya held Rex's harness tightly, her free hand gripping her cane. She moved with the quiet assurance that only years of trust could build. The sun was warm on her skin, and the scent of fresh coffee from a nearby shop filled the air. Then she heard it, a deep, mocking laugh. "Look at this. A blind lady with a big old mutt," a voice sneered. Maya stiffened. She was used to whispers, to the occasional awkward stare, but outright mockery was rare. She ignored it and continued walking. Rex's ears twitched, his trained instincts sensing something off. His steps became more alert, his body subtly shifting to shield Maya. Then it happened. A sudden, sharp impact. Maya gasped as Rex jerked to the side, his body absorbing a cruel kick. The force of it made him stumble, but he recovered instantly, his powerful muscles steadying him. Maya's heart pounded. "What was that?" she demanded, gripping Rex's harness tighter. The laugh came again, louder, crueler. "Just a little wake-up call. Maybe get yourself a real dog, lady." Rex's fur bristled. His breathing was steady, but Maya could feel the tension in his body. This wasn't fear. It was restraint. Rex had been trained for combat, for dangerous missions, for facing down criminals. He knew how to assess a threat, and right now he was holding himself back, because Maya hadn't given the command. Maya turned her head toward the voice. "Who are you? Why would you do that?" A motorcycle engine revved, sending vibrations through the pavement. The man chuckled. "What's the big deal? It's just a dumb dog." Maya clenched her jaw. He had no idea who Rex really was, no idea that he had just made a terrible mistake. The motorcycle's engine rumbled, drowning out the sound of Maya's pounding heartbeat. She could still feel the force of the impact. Rex had taken the kick, meant to humiliate, meant to show power. But the biker didn't know who he was dealing with. Rex stood firm, his body tense, his breath slow, but deep. He was waiting for a command. Years of police training had honed his instincts. Attack wasn't his first response, control was. But control had its limits. Maya's grip on his harness tightened. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice firm despite the growing unease inside her. The biker laughed. "Just a guy enjoying a little fun," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Didn't think the mutt was so sensitive." Maya could hear the subtle rustling of leather, the shift of weight. He was still on his bike, but something about the way he spoke told her he was leaning in, watching for her reaction, waiting for her to crumble. She didn't. Instead, she took a breath and stood her ground. "You have no idea what you've just done," she said, her voice low but firm. The biker scoffed. "Oh yeah? And what's your blind ass gonna do about it?" The words stung, but not in the way he intended. Maya had faced worse. She had learned to move through a world that saw her as weak, helpless. But she wasn't alone. She had Rex. And Rex wasn't a regular guide dog. At that moment, the low, deep growl started from within Rex's chest. It wasn't loud, but it carried weight. A warning, a final chance. The biker must have noticed. "Oh, now he's mad?" he said, feigning amusement, but there was something forced in his tone now. Maya spoke clearly, evenly. "Rex is a retired canine officer. He's trained to protect, trained to fight. Do you know what that means?" Silence. Rex didn't break his stance. His ears were locked forward, his focus entirely on the man in front of them. He wasn't just reacting, he was calculating. The biker chuckled, but it was shaky. "So what? He's old now, right? Just some worn-out dog?" Maya turned her head slightly, listening. She heard a slight shift, the man adjusting his position, maybe reaching for something. She didn't know if it was a weapon or just nerves, but Rex knew. His growl deepened. A pause. Then suddenly, the biker moved. A sharp motion, the scrape of a boot against pavement, the revving of the engine. He was about to speed off. Rex lunged forward, not attacking but blocking. The biker let out a startled yelp as the massive German shepherd positioned himself directly in his path, muscles coiled, ready. Whoa, chill, man," the biker stammered. Maya didn't flinch. "I don't think you get it," she said. "You don't get to kick my dog and just ride away." The weight of her words hung heavy. For the first time, the biker hesitated. I wasn't serious, all right? Just messing around," he said, the bravado in his voice cracking. Maya shook her head. Not good enough. Rex held his ground, his presence alone enough to make the biker think twice. The street had changed. People were watching now. Conversations had stopped. Footsteps had slowed. Someone had seen what happened. Maybe they hadn't spoken up before, but now, with a trained canine standing his ground, with a blind woman refusing to be a victim, eyes were on the biker. He noticed. Maya heard the nervous exhale, the moment he realized this wasn't a simple joke anymore. "All right, fine. Whatever. I'll leave," he muttered, trying to sound indifferent. The engine revved again, but this time the arrogance was gone. He pulled back slightly, trying to edge away from the confrontation. Rex didn't move. He wouldn't, not until Maya told him to. "Let him go, Rex," she said softly. The German shepherd took a step back, though his golden brown eyes never wavered. He was still watching, still ensuring that the threat was gone. The biker wasted no time. With a sharp turn of the handlebars, he peeled off down the street, tires screeching as he disappeared into the traffic. Maya let out a slow breath. Rex finally relaxed, exhaling a deep huff, his tail flicking once, as if to say, "We handled that." A voice suddenly spoke from the crowd. "Are you okay, ma'am?" Maya turned toward the sound. A woman, maybe in her 40s, concern in her voice. "I'm fine," Maya said, offering a small smile. "Thanks to Rex." The woman chuckled, still a little shaken. That biker had no idea what he was messing with. Maya reached down, running her fingers through Rex's thick fur. No, he didn't. But something didn't sit right. Maya had been mocked before. People had dismissed her, ignored her, even spoken down to her. But this felt different. Something about that biker, his voice, the way he acted. This wasn't over, and deep down Rex knew it too. The city had settled into its usual rhythm, but for Maya, something was off. She walked down the sidewalk, gripping Rex's harness as he guided her through the familiar streets. Her steps were steady, but inside her mind raced. That biker, his voice, the way he acted. It wasn't just some random encounter. Rex had sensed it too. Even now, his ears flicked back every few steps, his body slightly more alert than usual. He had done his job, protected Maya, made sure that man left. But deep down, he knew what Maya felt. This wasn't over. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to the faint hum of the city outside her apartment. Rex lay beside her bed, his large frame rising and falling with steady breaths. But even in the dark, she knew he wasn't fully relaxed. He was waiting. Maya reached down, her fingers brushing against his thick fur. "You felt it too, didn't you, boy?" she whispered. Rex didn't move, but his ear twitched. He was listening. Maya sighed. Maybe she was overthinking it. Maybe the biker was just some arrogant guy who didn't think before acting. Maybe he really was gone. Maybe. She closed her eyes, trying to let sleep take over. And then, a sound. A low, distant rumble. Maya's eyes shot open. A motorcycle. Rex's head lifted instantly, ears perked, his body stiff. The noise grew louder, then suddenly stopped. Maya sat up, her heart pounding. The street below her apartment wasn't usually busy at night. Was it just someone passing by? Or was it him? She didn't move, didn't breathe. She just listened. Silence. Then, footsteps. Rex let out a low growl, his muscles tensing. Not a warning growl, a real one. Maya reached for her phone, her fingers shaking slightly. She had dealt with plenty of things before, but this was different. Someone was outside, a shadow lurking where they shouldn't be. She dialed a number and pressed the phone to her ear. 911. What's your emergency? Maya swallowed hard, keeping her voice steady. There's a man outside my building. He was harassing me earlier today. I think he followed me home. A pause. Are you alone? Maya hesitated, glancing down at Rex, whose sharp eyes were locked on the door. Alone? Not exactly. But before she could answer, a loud knock echoed through the apartment. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Rex stood up instantly, stepping between her and the door, his growl deep and menacing. Maya Carter, a voice called from outside. It wasn't a police officer. It was him, the biker. She gripped Rex's harness, feeling his body vibrating with tension. He was waiting for her command. Maya swallowed hard. The police are on their way, she called back, her voice strong. Leave now. A pause. Then, laughter. Not loud, not mocking like before, but controlled, amused. Maya's stomach twisted. You think a phone call is going to help you? He said. I just wanted to come talk. Apologize. Rex growled louder. A warning. A final one. Maya took a slow breath. She had to stay calm. I don't believe you, she said. Another chuckle. All right. Fair enough. Silence. Maya waited, her fingers tightening in Rex's fur. She listened. The shifting of weight. A faint scuff against the floor. Then, footsteps retreating. The sound of a motorcycle engine. And then, he was gone. Maya exhaled, but it wasn't relief. It was something else. Something worse. Because she knew this wasn't over. And Rex knew it too. The morning air was crisp, but Maya felt anything but refreshed. She had barely slept, her mind replaying the events of the night before. The knock on the door, the mocking voice, the way the biker had made it clear that he wasn't finished with her. Rex hadn't moved from his spot beside her bed all night. She could feel his presence, his slow and steady breathing, but she knew he had been awake, watching, listening. Now, as she sat on the edge of her bed, her fingers resting in his thick fur, she let out a slow breath. "We can't just wait for him to come back," she murmured. Rex's ears flicked forward, as if he understood. Maybe he did. Maya had already called the police earlier that morning, filing a report about the harassment. They promised to look into it, but she could tell by their tone that they weren't taking it seriously. "We'll send a patrol car by later," the officer had said. "Just stay alert." She didn't need them to tell her that. She had been staying alert her entire life. By the time she stepped outside, Rex guiding her down the familiar path, her decision was already made. She had to go back to where this all started. The sidewalk was busy as usual, the sound of traffic rushing by, the scent of street food filling the air as people hurried through their routines. But for Maya, everything felt different today. The city, which had always been her home, now felt hostile. She couldn't see them, but she could feel the eyes on her. Or maybe it was just paranoia. Maybe the biker was really gone. Maybe last night had been some kind of sick game for him. Maybe. But Rex didn't think so. He was more alert than usual, his head high, his movements sharper, more deliberate. Every time someone passed too close, she could feel his body shift, positioning himself between her and whoever it was. They reached the street corner where it had all started. The place where the biker had laughed at her, had kicked Rex, thinking he was just some helpless dog. Maya slowed her steps, gripping the harness tighter. "Do you smell something, boy?" Rex's posture changed instantly. His ears perked, his nose twitched, and then a low growl. Maya stiffened. Something was wrong. She couldn't see, but she could hear it. A motorcycle engine not too far away. It wasn't moving, just idling. Her pulse quickened. He was watching her. Rex's growl deepened. Not loud, but controlled. A warning. He was trained not to react unless necessary, but Maya could feel his body tighten, his breathing slow as he prepared for whatever came next. The engine suddenly revved, loud and aggressive, a warning of its own. Then, it was gone. The sound faded into the distance, lost in the noise of the city. Maya let out a slow breath, her grip on Rex's harness tightening. He was playing with her. He wanted her to know he was still there, that he wasn't finished with her yet. A chill ran down her spine. She turned, her steps brisk now, Rex guiding her quickly away from the street corner. Her mind was racing. Why? Why was this happening? Was it just about humiliation? Or was it something more? She didn't know. But one thing was certain. This wasn't over. And if that biker thought she was weak, if he thought she was just a blind woman who wouldn't fight back, he had made one very big mistake, because she wasn't alone. She had Rex, and Rex was ready. Maya's heart pounded as she quickened her pace, gripping Rex's harness tightly. The sound of the motorcycle had faded, but she knew he was still out there. He was playing a game, circling her like a predator, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But what he didn't realize was that she wasn't the prey. She had Rex, and Rex was a hunter. Back at her apartment, she locked the door behind her and leaned against it, exhaling slowly. Rex paced beside her, his nails clicking softly against the wooden floor, his body still tense. He could feel it too. She wasn't imagining things. This wasn't over. And that meant she had to make a choice. She could wait for the police to take their time investigating, to show up long after the biker had done whatever he was planning. Or she could take control. Maya reached down, running her fingers through Rex's thick fur. He had protected her before. He had been trained for moments like this. Maybe it was time to turn the tables. She took a deep breath. "We're not running, boy. If he wants a fight, we'll give him one." Rex huffed, his tail flicking in approval. Maya picked up her phone and dialed the only person she knew who would actually help: Detective Jake Holloway. Jake Holloway had been one of the officers who helped train Rex when he was still an active duty K-9. He knew the dog's instincts, his abilities, and most importantly, he believed Maya. When she told him about the biker, the harassment, the way Rex had reacted, Jake didn't dismiss it. "I don't like this," he said over the phone. "This guy isn't just some random punk. He's stalking you, testing boundaries." Maya swallowed hard. "I know." There was a pause. Then Jake said, "You want to set a trap, don't you?" Maya didn't hesitate. "Yes." Another pause, then a quiet chuckle. "You've got guts, Carter." She exhaled. "I just want to end this." Jake sighed. "All right, I'll help. But we do this smart. We use Rex." Maya smiled slightly. That was always the plan. That night, the plan was set. Maya and Rex would go back to the same spot where the biker had first attacked. Same time, same routine. But this time, Jake and another officer would be waiting nearby, out of sight, watching. If the biker showed up, if he tried anything, they would be ready. Maya sat on the couch, stroking Rex's fur. "You ready for this, boy?" Rex's ears perked, his golden brown eyes locked onto her. His body was relaxed, but she could feel the energy beneath the surface. He was ready. He had been waiting for this. "All right," she whispered. "Let's end this." The city was quieter at night. Fewer people, fewer distractions. Maya walked with steady steps, Rex guiding her just as he always did. To anyone watching, she looked like the same blind woman from before, going about her routine. But there was one big difference. This time, she was waiting. And so was Rex. Her ears caught the distant sound of an engine, the low rumble growing closer. Her pulse quickened. Rex's muscles tensed. Then, the motorcycle stopped. Silence. He was here. Maya didn't react, didn't change her pace. She walked as if she hadn't noticed, but inside, her adrenaline was spiking. She could hear the faint creak of leather, the subtle shift of weight as the biker dismounted. He was close. Then, his voice. "You really should have stayed home, lady." Maya stopped walking. Slowly, she turned her head slightly toward the sound, her grip on Rex's harness tightening. "Funny," she said calmly. "I was about to say the same thing to you." Then, a sharp whistle. A single, precise command. Rex launched forward. The second Maya gave the whistle command, Rex exploded forward like a missile, his powerful muscles propelling him toward the biker with deadly precision. The man barely had time to react. 1 second he was standing there, thinking he had control. The next, a 100-pound ex-K9 German Shepherd was lunging straight at him. The biker's instinct was to move, to dodge, but Rex was trained for this. He aimed low, knocking the man off balance, sending him crashing backward onto the pavement. "What the?" the biker shouted as he hit the ground hard. Rex was on him instantly, his massive paws pinning the man's chest, his sharp teeth bared inches from his throat. A guttural, deep snarl ripped from Rex's throat, his golden eyes burning with warning. He wasn't biting. Not yet. But he was ready to. "Call him off!" the biker gasped, his voice suddenly a lot less cocky than before. Maya stood tall, her face calm, her expression unreadable behind her dark sunglasses. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. "You thought you could mess with me," she said, her voice even. "You thought I was weak." The biker gritted his teeth, trying to shift his weight. Bad move. Rex let out a louder snarl, pressing down harder, his breath hot against the man's face. The biker froze, suddenly realizing something. This wasn't just some pet. This was a trained killer. Maya took a slow step forward, listening to every sound, sensing his fear. Here's the thing, she continued. Rex is a retired canine. That means he used to be a police dog. He's trained to subdue criminals. She let the words sink in. And do you know what happens when someone tries to hurt his handler? The biker didn't answer. He was too busy trying not to breathe too hard, as if any movement might set Rex off. Maya tilted her head. Take a wild guess. The biker swallowed hard. Look. I didn't mean... Maya held up a hand. Save it. At that moment, a new sound cut through the tension. Police sirens. The biker's body tensed. Oh, come on. You called the cops? Maya smirked. Of course I did. Just then, footsteps rushed toward them. Rex, stand down. At the sound of Detective Jake Holloway's voice, Rex obeyed instantly. He pulled back just enough, still standing over the biker, still watching him like a hawk. Hands, where I can see them, Jake barked, his gun drawn. The biker groaned, defeated, as two officers grabbed his arms and pulled him to his feet. Do you have any idea how stupid you are? Jake asked, shaking his head. Threatening a woman, stalking her, and doing it in front of a retired canine? The biker didn't answer. He just glared at Maya, but this time she could hear it in his voice. The fear. You set me up, he muttered. Maya lifted her chin. No, I gave you a choice. You made the wrong one. One of the officers snapped handcuffs onto his wrists. You're under arrest for harassment, stalking, and attempted assault. The biker cursed under his breath as they hauled him toward the squad car. Maya exhaled, finally letting her shoulders relax. She reached down and felt Rex's thick fur rubbing behind his ears. Good job, boy. Rex wagged his tail just once, but his eyes never left the biker. He wanted to be sure, absolutely sure. Jake stepped closer. You okay? Maya nodded. Better now. Jake let out a chuckle. Remind me never to get on your bad side. She smirked. Remind me to give Rex extra treats when we get home. Jake laughed, but then his voice turned serious. We'll make sure this guy doesn't bother you again. You did the right thing, Maya. She nodded, gripping Rex's harness as she turned to leave. She could feel the biker's eyes on her, even as he sat in the back of the squad car. But this time, he was the one who was afraid. And Maya? She was done being a victim. Because she had Rex. And together, they were unstoppable. The air outside the police station was crisp, filled with the hum of distant traffic. Maya stood tall, one hand resting on Rex's harness, the other tucked into the pocket of her jacket. She could hear the officers wrapping up paperwork inside, but she wasn't focused on that. She was focused on the feeling deep inside her chest. Relief, strength, victory. The biker was gone, arrested, locked up, and facing real consequences. He had spent days taunting her, testing her limits, thinking she was weak. But in the end, it wasn't fear that won. It was her. More importantly, it was Rex. She turned her head slightly. What do you think, boy? Rex let out a soft huff, his tail flicking once. His mission was complete. She knelt down, running her fingers through his thick fur. He had saved her life in more ways than one. Not just tonight. Every single day. People saw her as a blind woman. Some pitied her, others ignored her. But Rex never did. From the moment they met, he had never doubted her, never questioned her strength, never treated her like she was fragile. Because to him, she wasn't. She was his partner, his world. And tonight, they had faced down a predator together, and won. A voice pulled her from her thoughts. You sure you don't want me to drive you home? Maya stood, adjusting her sunglasses. Jake Holloway. He had been a good friend ever since Rex came into her life, and tonight He had been the backup she needed. She shook her head with a small smile. "We'll be fine," Jake chuckled. "I figured you'd say that." There was a pause before he added, "You really pulled this off, Maya." She exhaled. "I had help." She reached down, scratching behind Rex's ear. Jake smirked. "He's the best partner you could ask for." Maya smiled. "Yeah, he is." Jake hesitated, then placed a firm hand on Rex's head. "You take care of her, buddy." Rex huffed in approval, as if saying, "I always do." Maya tightened her grip on the harness. "All right, boy. Let's go home." And just like that, they walked away. Through the city streets, under the glow of streetlights, Maya moved with the same confidence she always had. But now she wasn't just surviving. She was unstoppable, and with Rex by her side, she always would be. If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Let's spread the message of courage, loyalty, and the power of the human-animal bond.